DeepSeek V4 Pro costs 0.435 per million input tokens. That's roughly 18 times cheaper than Claude Code's premium API rates, and if you're running serious API volume, that gap is thousands of dollars a month. Coding tools are moving fast right now, so I'm putting DeepSeek V4 Pro up against Claude Code across 5 head-to-head tests to see who actually wins. But cheaper per token doesn't always mean cheaper to run, and by the end of the cost test, you'll see exactly why that 0.435 number is only half the story. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Every number in this video traces back to official pricing pages, model cards, and independent benchmark trackers. This one's for API developers and coding teams deciding where to put their monthly tool budget. Alright, so test 1, cost. A solo dev I know ran an automated code review pipeline for a month and got hit with a surprise bill 3 times what they budgeted, and that's what happens when you don't actually understand the pricing model before you commit. So let's look at what DeepSeek V4 Pro and Claude Code actually charge, and what that means at real API volume. I looked at the published numbers, and DeepSeek V4 Pro sits at 0.435 input and 0.87 output per million tokens on OpenRouter. Claude Code doesn't publish a per token API rate at all. It's a subscription. $20 a month for Pro, $100 for Max 5x, $200 for Max 20x. These are completely different economic models, right? One's pay per token, one's a flat bill, and that makes a direct apples-to-apples comparison pretty tricky. DeepSeek V4 Pro takes cost, and it's not subtle. 0.435 per million tokens versus a subscription with no published per token equivalent. I went looking for a comparable Claude Code rate and couldn't find one anywhere. For API-driven workloads, DeepSeek's raw per token price wins decisively, and that puts DeepSeek V4 Pro up 1-0. Okay, so test 2, coding benchmark performance. A cheaper model that can't actually fix your bugs is just cheap noise, so the real question is whether DeepSeek V4 Pro's low price comes with a quality trade-off. We're looking at SWE bench scores and human evil numbers, the benchmarks that actually try to measure whether a model can handle real software engineering tasks, not just toy prompts. So I looked at every figure I could find, and it's kind of frustrating. DeepSeek V4 Pro posts 91.2% on SWE bench verified, and around 96.4% on human eval, strong numbers. Claude Code comes back at 83% on SWE Bench Pro. The problem is these are literally different benchmarks, so you can't compare them head-to-head, and SWE Bench Pro is harder, which means Claude Code's 83% might actually be more impressive than it looks on screen. Coding benchmarks, no winner. Neither side published figures on the same test, so the data just doesn't line up for a clean call, and I couldn't find a single overlapping eval anywhere. Score stays at DeepSeek V4 Pro 1, Claude Code 0, with 1 test tied. Now, test 3, speed. 62 tokens per second. That's the independently measured output rate for DeepSeek V4 Pro from artificial analysis. That number matters a lot if you're running agentic loops where the model is calling itself repeatedly, because slow output compounds fast, and your wall clock time on a big refactor can double or triple. Let's see if Claude Code can actually match or beat that. So I looked at every speed figure I could find, and the data situation is pretty lopsided. DeepSeek V4 Pro has a real, independently measured number, 62 tokens per second from artificial analysis, with a 0.99 second time to first token from together.ai. Claude Code's published claim is just a relative multiplier, up to 2.5 times faster in fast mode, but there's no absolute baseline to compare against, and I couldn't find one published anywhere. Speed, no winner again. A relative multiplier with no baseline just isn't comparable to a measured 62 TS, and I went looking for an absolute tokens per second figure for Claude Code and came up empty. Score stays at DeepSeek V4 Pro 1, Claude Code 0, 2 tests tied now. Alright, so we've got cost and context still to go, and context is the one that could genuinely flip the decision for anyone working on a large codebase. If DeepSeek V4 Pro's window advantage is as big as the spec sheet says, it changes the whole math on what you can actually do in a single pass, and that's worth staying for. Test 4. Context and output limits. 1 million tokens, that's DeepSeek V4 Pro's context window. A solo dev shipping a large monorepo refactor on a Friday needs to know whether their tool can hold the whole codebase in memory at once, or whether it's going to start forgetting files and hallucinating function signatures halfway through. Context limits are where cheap models often fall apart pretty fast. The gap here is wider than I expected. DeepSeek V4 Pro runs a 1 million token context window and supports up to 384,000 output tokens, meaning you can generate entire files or multi-file changes in one shot. Claude Code's published context window is 200,000 tokens, and I couldn't find any published output limit at all. That's 5 times more context on the DeepSeek side, which is a real concrete advantage for whole repo work. DeepSeek V4 Pro takes context and output limits, and it's not even close to a debate. 5 times the context window, plus a 384K output ceiling that Claude Code doesn't even publish a number for. The gap is real, and it's verified. That puts the score at DeepSeek V4 Pro 2, Claude Code 0, 2 tests still tied. Okay, test 5, deployment and modality. Some teams can't send code to a third-party cloud at all. Compliance rules, private IP, whatever the reason. If your tool is closed source and cloud only, that's a hard no before you even look at the price. But on the flip side, a raw API with no harness means you're building the integration yourself, and that's its own cost in engineering time. So here's what I found. DeepSeek V4 Pro ships under an MIT license. You can self-host it on Alma or Hugging Face. Run it privately, no lock-in. Claude Code is closed source and cloud only, full stop. But Claude Code's harness is genuinely a product. Terminal native, IDE integrated, works on macOS, Linux, and Windows, plus Slack and web access out of the box. DeepSeek is a raw API, so you're building the integration yourself. Deployment and modality, it's a tie. This one really does come down to what you value: open weight flexibility and private deployment versus a polished, ready-to-run agent harness. Neither answer is wrong, so the final score sits at DeepSeek V4 Pro 2, Claude Code 0, 3 tests tied. DeepSeek V4 Pro wins on 4 concrete things: per token cost, 0.435 input, 0.87 output per million tokens, a fraction of what Claude's API rates run. Context, 1 million tokens in, 384,000 tokens out, which means whole repo analysis in a single pass. Open weight MIT license, so you can self-host and keep your code private. And a measured, independently verified output speed of 62 tokens per second. Claude Code wins on the product side. It's a terminal native IDE integrated agent that works out of the box on macOS, Linux, and Windows, plus Slack and web. The subscription model is $20 a month for Pro, flat rate, no per token surprise bills at the end of the month. And for enterprise teams, vendor documented costs and a mature support ecosystem mean fewer headaches when something breaks. Okay, so here's the decision rule. If you're an API-driven developer who needs maximum context and minimum cost, DeepSeek V4 Pro is the clear pick. $435 per million tokens and a 1 million token window is hard to argue with. If you want a terminal native agent that just works and you'd rather pay a flat $20 a month than watch a per token meter, Claude Code is the safer bet. Pick on your workflow, not on hype. If you're still not sure whether a local model can actually keep up with a cloud agent on real coding tasks, I ran that exact test in my video on Alma versus Claude Code, can-free, local keep up. It's worth watching before you make a final call, because the answer is a lot more nuanced than the price tag suggests.